Okay, let's deep dive into a really dramatic story today from the ancient text of First Kings chapter 18.
Yeah, this one's got it all. High stakes confrontation.
Totally. So the scene is set during this brutal famine. It's been going on for 3 years. The land is just parched. People are desperate.
Really desperate. The text makes that clear.
And right into this crisis, the prophet Elijah appears. The Lord tells him, go show yourself to King Ahab. And crucially, there's a promise of rain.
But not before a major showdown. It's not just about the weather forecast, is it?
No, exactly. The source really connects the famine to the spiritual state of Israel under Ahab.
Right. His leadership, his family following Baal. Elijah's appearance is about confronting that problem first.
And before we get to Ahab and Elijah, we meet this fascinating figure, Obadiah.
Ah, Obadiah.
He's Ahab's palace administrator. You'd think, okay, he's part of the system, but the text points out he's a devout believer in the Lord.
Which is pretty remarkable, given the circumstances. Faith surviving right under the nose of Ahab and Jezebel.
And it wasn't just private belief. He acted on it, didn't he?
Oh, incredibly bravely.
Hmm.
While Queen Jezebel was, actively trying to wipe out the Lord's prophets.
Yeah, just killing him.
Obadiah takes this huge risk. He hides 100 prophets, 50 per cave, and keeps them alive. Food, water, everything.
That's just, wow. Quiet resistance from inside the palace itself.
A real act of costly faith.
Meanwhile, Ahab and this same Obadiah are out doing something else. Something that shows just how bad things are.
Right. They're not looking for food for the people anymore.
No, they're personally scouting the land, splitting up the territory, just looking for enough grass or water to keep the royal horses and mules alive.
It shows the absolute collapse. Their focus is just keeping the basic infrastructure, the animals, from dying.
And it's while Obadiah's on this, grim search.
He runs into Elijah.
Bam. Just imagine that. Obadiah recognizes him immediately, bows down, total respect. But he's also terrified.
Understandably. He says, "Is it really you, my lord Elijah?"
And Elijah's just like, yep, go tell Ahab I'm here.
Which sends Obadiah into a panic. He's thinking, Ahab's gonna kill me.
Right. He lays it all out for Elijah, doesn't he? Like, Ahab's been searching everywhere for you, making kingdoms swear they aren't hiding you.
And if I tell him you're here, you'll probably vanish again, carried off by the spirit, like you do.
And then Ahab will have my head. It's raw fear.
He even plays the, hey, remember I saved those 100 prophets card. Like, don't set me up to be killed after I risked everything.
It's such a human moment. You feel his fear.
Definitely. But Elijah gives him solid reassurance. He swears an oath, basically. As the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I will surely present myself to Ahab today.
No vanishing acts this time.
Exactly. That calms Obadiah down.
So Obadiah goes, tells Ahab, and finally, Ahab meets Elijah. After 3 years, in his first words.
Oh, they're loaded. Is that you troubler of Israel?
Just straight up blame, you caused all the suffering.
It's a classic blame shift. But Elijah doesn't even flinch. He throws it right back.
He says, I haven't troubled Israel.
You and your father's family have, by abandoning the Lord's commands and following the Baals. Boom. Direct hit.
He identifies the real source of the trouble, the idolatry, the turning away from God, led by the king himself.
It frames the whole conflict. Is it Elijah causing problems? Or is it the king's spiritual choices leading to divine judgment? Elijah makes his position clear.
And he doesn't just leave it there. He immediately issues this huge challenge.
Yeah, takes it from a one-on-one to a national event. He tells Ahab, gather everyone.
All of Israel, plus the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asher.
And the text specifically adds, who eat at Jezebel's table.
Right, underscoring that royal sponsorship of the false prophet.
They're all summoned to Mount Carmel, a place often linked with fertility, ironically enough.
So Ahab, maybe out of desperation or curiosity, actually does it. He gathers everyone.
Picture the scene. Mount Carmel. Thousands of Israelites milling around, confused. Hundreds of official prophets of Baal and Asherah and Elijah.
Standing pretty much alone for the Lord, and he puts it to the people, point blank.
That famous line, how long will you waver between two opinions?
If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. He's calling out their indecision, their spiritual fence-sitting.
And the response?
Silence. Dead silence from the crowd.
Which says so much, doesn't it? Fear, confusion, maybe just paralysis after years of compromise?
So Elijah decides to break the deadlock. He proposes the test.
Simple, clear rules. 2 bulls.
One for Baal's prophets, one for him. Prepare the sacrifice, put it on the wood.
And this is the key. No fire. You don't light it yourselves.
The challenge. The God who answers by fire, he is God.
An objective test. No ambiguity, Let the gods show their power.
And the people, they actually go for it. They say, what you say is good. They want clarity.
So the prophets of Baal get first dibs, all 450 of them. Elijah lets them choose their bull, prepare it first.
They set it up, and then they start calling on Baal.
All morning long, "Oh, Baal, answer us!" Shouting, chanting.
The text says they were, like, dancing frantically around the altar they'd made. But nothing. Hours pass. No voice, no sign, no answer. Just silence from Baal.
And then, around noon, Elijah starts in with the mockery.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't hold back. He starts taunting them.
It's almost darkly funny. "Shout louder," he says. Surely he's a god.
Maybe he's deep in thought, or busy, or traveling.
Maybe he's sleeping and needs you to wake him up. He's just shredding their belief in this inactive god.
And his taunts just make them more desperate. They shout even louder.
And then they start cutting themselves. With swords, with spears, until they're bleeding.
Yeah, that self-mutilation thing, trying to force a response through extreme acts. It was part of some of those cults.
Just gaslight. And they keep this up, this frantic prophesying, all afternoon. Until the time of the evening sacrifice.
A specific time associated with worship of the Lord.
But still,
Yeah.
nothing. The source is really clear. No response, no answer. Nobody paid attention. Total failure.
Complete and utter failure. Sets the stage perfectly.
So Elijah steps up. He calls the people closer to him. And the first thing he does is repair the Lord's altar, which was in ruins there.
Why repair an old one? What's the significance?
It's about restoration, not innovation. Connecting back to Israel's history with the Lord before Baal. And he uses 12 stones.
One for each tribe, right. Descended from Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel.
Exactly. It's a symbolic act of calling the whole nation back together, back to their covenant God.
So he rebuilds the altar, arranges the wood, puts the bull on it, standard sacrifice prep.
And then he does something completely unexpected, especially in a drought.
Yeah, the water. He tells them, fill 4 large jars with water.
And pour it on the offering and on the wood.
Not just once.
Nope. Do it again. And a third time, he wants it soaked.
The text says the water ran all down the altar and filled a trench he'd dug around it. A big trench.
He's making it absolutely impossible for fire to catch naturally, removing any doubt, any chance of trickery.
If fire comes now, it's undeniably supernatural.
That's the point. Maximum difficulty, maximum clarity when God acts.
Okay, so it's drenched. It's the time for the evening sacrifice. Elijah steps forward.
And he prays. It's not a long prayer, but it's powerful and specific. He calls on the Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel.
That historical connection again?
Yeah. And he asks God to show everyone that day that he is God in Israel, that Elijah is his servant acting on his command.
And crucially, he asks God to do it so the people will know the Lord is God and that God is turning their hearts back.
The goal is restoration. And the answer.
Instantaneous and overwhelming. Then the fire of the Lord fell.
And it didn't just burn the sacrifice in the wood.
No. It burned up the stones of the altar, the dirt around it.
It licked up the water in the trench, just vaporized it all.
Imagine seeing that. The sheer consuming power after hours of nothing from Baal.
The people's reaction is exactly what you'd expect.
They just fall on their faces, prostrate, and they cry out together.
The Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God.
The turning point. The evidence was undeniable. They made their choice.
And that choice had immediate consequences. Elijah gives the command. Seize the prophets of Baal. Don't let any escape.
And the people, now fully committed, they grab them, all 450.
Elijah takes them down to the Kishon Valley. They're slaughtered.
It's a harsh part of the story, but in the narrative's logic, it's the removal of the source of the spiritual corruption that caused the judgment.
Right. The false system is dismantled after the true God reveals himself.
Okay, so the spiritual crisis is dealt with. Now, the physical one, the drought.
Elijah turns to Ahab. Tells him, basically, go have a meal. Party's over. Rain's coming.
He says, for there is the sound of heavy rain, even though there isn't a cloud in the sky yet.
Just pure faith based on God's promise and action. Ahab heads off, but Elijah goes up Carmel again.
And assumes this posture of intense waiting, right? Bent down, face between his knees, praying, waiting.
Seems like intense intercession or expectation. Then he sends his servant, go look toward the sea.
Servant goes, comes back, nothing.
Go again. 7 times.
6 times, nothing. Builds the suspense, right? Even after the miracle, you have to wait, keep looking.
It emphasizes that persistence, maybe, that connection between prayer and the physical answer unfolding.
And then the 7th time?
The servant sees it. A cloud as small as a man's hand rising from the sea.
Tiny. Insignificant, almost. But Elijah knows.
That's the sign. He tells the servant, run. Tell Ahab, hitch up your chariot. Get down the mountain now before the rain traps you.
And just like that, the sky turns black. Clouds, wind.
And then a massive downpour. The drought breaks.
Ahab races off in his chariot towards Jezreel.
And then there's that final amazing detail. The power of the Lord comes on Elijah.
And he tucks his cloak into his belt and runs ahead of Ahab's chariot.
All the way to Jezreel, outrunning horses for maybe 17, 20 miles.
Just an incredible display of God's power fueling him, even after everything on the mountain.
So looking back at this chapter, wow, what a narrative arc.
Seriously.
Yeah.
We see a nation stuck, wavering. We see courage in Obadiah. We see the total emptiness of the false gods.
And then this absolutely stunning, undeniable display of the Lord's power. Fire that consumes stone and water.
It forces a choice. And that choice leads to judgment on the false system, and then finally the restoration of rain, of life.
It really highlights how moments of clear, powerful evidence can cut through confusion and demand a response, a declaration of where you stand.
Yeah, it makes you think about those moments in our own lives, maybe not with fire from heaven,
Really not.
but moments where the evidence is clear, where we're challenged to stop wavering.
And it leaves us with that question, doesn't it? How do those moments of undeniable clarity, those powerful demonstrations, challenge our beliefs? What does it take for us to move from fence-sitting to a firm decision about what or who we truly follow?
That's definitely something worth pondering after this deep dive into such a powerful story.